Hi. So we're back for part 4. When I spoke to you last, I had concluded part 3 of my adventure to Lambay Island off the coast of Dublin, just north of Dublin. And now I'm going to read you just 2 more poems about Ireland, and then I think I want to start reading you some of my more mature poems, which are so vastly different in style and in subject matter from these earlier poems of when I was a young girl. So the first poem is called The Race, and it's about an experience I had with a group of my friends in Dublin when we went one night to visit this American friend of ours who had a cottage out in Wicklow Mountains in Blessington. And when we went there, we all went out and kind of roamed around and roamed the hills and just had a fabulous evening. So this poem is about that night. And it's a very happy poem. The midnight romps through Blessington hills when with the Henry boys I thrilled at the horses hoofing beneath a blood-red moon. When I, in Alice's world, climbed gnarly trees and rested Cheshire style against the still runes of fate. When the blue-drenched hills had stamped me with their lunar glance, I danced, my spirit freed at last. When the dewy smells of low-flying morning clouds had teased our senses, eyeing our liberated souls. When the muffled moon kissed the soaring sun and brushed our faces with an infatuation, a captivation of a race against youth, against death, against the dread demons of time and society. Then we drank the raw dew and fed on monstrous mushrooms until the Wicklow hills had wed us, had filled us with such love that we relinquished our right to remain in paradise, and with reluctance said good night. It's such a sweet poem. I love that poem. And I wrote it so long ago. This particular poem I wrote, oh my God, I wrote this back in the 1970s. During the summer, I spent in a cottage on Killary Harbour in County Galway. That place was absolutely magical. And I loved the locals. I loved the little town of Rush, County Galway. They had little Saturday sheep fairs, and there were 2 little pubs in town. The Gainers and the other one, I forget what the name was. And, oh boy, and those people like to drink that illegal whiskey up in those mountains there. Poachine, wow. I'm telling you, I only tried it once. That was it. It was just crazy. So this poem is about all of these stories that the locals told me about that particular summer. And I wrote them all down and I kind of wove them into this story about this old woman of the Connemara Mountains, just kind of roaming around and thinking back, about her youth. So this is called 4 Movements of the Connemara Queen. After long journeys, the old woman sits to rest, her elbow on her walking stick, brown, beaten, whittled by the wind. Her home is where the homeless have slept, flats in a literary town, flats in an illiterate town, homes by the sea, hostels made of salt and wind. When the log her chair, oh, I'm sorry. The log her chair where some cutter axed his firewood rises splintered to her flesh, but she perceives no chaffs. Seasons are more distinct, time, stars, and sun. She arises from trenches, caves, cottages, castles, to snap the moons into sight, that she might lift them up. The way the key fitted the door, heavy it was with string around my neck. Orange, pale apricot nodding was like the way he fitted me. Time left me locked. A broken hinge left for the wind to rattle. After long rest, the old woman stands, her hand melting about the stick handle, pad and step, pad, step, pad, step. The valley has no echo to the movement. Passing old stone fences, hanging on the mountainside like cobwebs on a wall. Old rocks which fortified old towns, now gone. They sailed away before they died. Memories of Jack the idiot, slow learner, the villagers decided, was strong as 7 men. Saw 2 swans sailing across the bay. Said he would be leaving them. The villagers joked. But the joke of the village died that night in a fever that set the age boiling. "What's the time?" he asked. "Midnight." The way she worried about the trees that summer, late months of summer when the ferns curled brown as if they were burnt, they were. When the leaves blow and crackle at the door's open space, everything burnt. Rowan berries had fallen like apples, the house trimmed with these magic berries of good fortune. All the trees, the way she feared them without their dress. The holly bush would remain, she thought. What posture should she take? What way to dream asleep? I sleep with arms around trees, smooth ones, the way his skin was golden then, as if I was stroking the side of the sun. Not tired, the old woman feels the ghost woman bog. By night, scents of heather mist that smell of princes, peasants. By day, blocks of earth dug, pile brown, wet fortresses of sheep, flowers, men, now warmth for the open hearth. When fire smoke filled the room like fog on the bay, friends sitting, smoking, piping, barely visible, pochine-eyed, bleary, bright talk. Then would she sing the 3 songs that she knew by heart. 3 love songs, a warning, a waiting, and rolling. Wow, that's such an old poem. Wow. I had a very interesting style back then. Oh, yes. This is actually a poem I wrote, I think, when I was in my late 30s or early 40s. It's called The Myth of Our Childhood. And it's about growing up during the 1950s and 60s when we had all of those nuclear drills, when we had to throw ourselves under our desks in case Russia hurled a bomb at us, as if those wooden desks were going to save us. Even we knew as children they wouldn't. So this is a poem about looking back about those times. The myth of our childhood. Remember when we hid under our pine desks, noses on the floor, arms over neck, consciousness bent and rent in confusion, when we counted down to man's ultimate light, the growing fright of disintegration, flesh seared, a melting disgust of bones bent to dust. Remember when in between Howdy Doody and Gabby Hayes, explosions and warnings paved our playtime with fear, a perverted nightmare interrupting our childhood peace, men raving and craving deliverance from war, a sure sign that poverty disguised was meant soon to appear. Remember bomb shelters, when our parents signed the line of indebtedness and filled cellar closets full of beef, fruit, and hope, that Castro would never dare to share his island's ambition or bear social ingredients within our coasts? This was our childhood, naked and exposed, and lacking in life.